Thank you for pressing play on episode 52 of the Inside Deschutes County podcast. Wherever you might be and however you might be listening, thank you for making us a part of your day. You can subscribe on any podcast platform, and you can also find us at deschutes.org/podcast.
Deschutes County is an amazing place to live,
work, and play.
Great place to raise a family.
I love the weather and the high desert.
At Deschutes County, we provide excellent service.
We're here to help you.
Deschutes County is the heart of Oregon.
Everyone wants to be here.
Welcome to the Inside Deschutes County podcast. So glad you're with us. I'm Eric Breon. Well, when you check into a hotel or swim in a public pool, chances are my next guest has already been there, making sure it's clean, safe, bug-free. As an environmental health specialist with Deschutes County, he inspects the pools, the spas, the lodging facilities all across the region. Today we're talking about what he looks for, why it matters, and how you can avoid maybe bringing home some unwanted guests. John Mason, welcome. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks, Eric. It's hopefully it'll be a little educational and a little entertaining.
It always is with you.
Yes.
I imagine this is a busy time of year for you.
Right. It is at the start of the pool season. Everybody is pulling the tops off and getting their pools ready to go. And swimmers are anxious during these days that it gets hot to get in the water.
Did I get your title right? Environmental health special inspector, basically, right?
Yeah. In Oregon, we're called registered environmental health specialists.
Okay.
So we kind of specialized in the built environment. So we're not hugging trees and fondling fish. We're out working in the human-built environment.
Man, how did you get in this? You and I have talked before.
Yes.
And you've been doing this a long time.
Right. So I started life as a fisheries biologist, and
Really?
I was working in...
Hence the fish reference.
I was working in Eugene when the boss called and said, the economy's on a downturn. We don't have much winter work for you, John. We'd love to have you back in the spring during the field season, but this is your last week on the job. And so I started shooting out resumes all over Oregon, Washington, Northern California, looking for a job, and responded to an ad for a soil scientist in Bend, Oregon. And
of all places.
I'd never heard of Bend, Oregon, and this is 1990 when Bend was about 18,000 people. So I moved here sight unseen to take this job. Designing, inspecting drain fields is how I started. So the joke is I went from brown trout in pristine streams to brown trout in septic tanks.
All right. All right. Well, that's an interesting story. I mean, a lot of people they started in something else before they get to the job that they do in public health. At least I'm learning.
Yes, it's only about 10-15% of the inspectors start off with a public health background, some kind of education, formal education. Most of us find our way there as scientists in some other field and then get into working in public health.
Well, you and I have been out a couple times.
Yeah, good field trips.
Good field trips. Man, I've learned a lot just watching what you do, how you do it, and just all the nuances to it. Let's kind of dig in with pools and the public safety aspect of that. What are you looking for when you inspect a public pool and hotels? It's obviously public swimming pools, parks and rec, that kind of thing.
HOA pools, apartment
okay.
pools, just not backyard pools, but every other pool is
not private pools.
Not private pools is a limited use pool, so it's limited to the people staying in the hotel, living in the apartment, members of the gym. My main assessment, my main job is education. So first thing I look at is who's running the pool and do they know what they're doing? Right? And then we work backwards from there. If I find problems with water chemistry or the filters or some water quality aspect, then it goes into educating the operator. So talking to the operator about, does he understand when to backwash a filter, for example? I see some of my facilities, they backwash their filter every Friday. And so I have to explain a dirty filter captures more stuff. So letting the filter get dirty provides a cleaner swimming environment. And that's a real aha moment for a lot of people. My operators always kind of go, I was talking with another inspector the other day, and she and I agreed that when you get that, oh, that makes sense, you've made a breakthrough, you've gotten that eureka moment.
I mean, you're a regular swimming pool CSI. You kind of walk in there with your kit, your
my little blue suitcase. Yeah.
Right. And you start pulling out all these, these vials, and you're collecting, and you've got chemicals to test chemicals. And talk about maybe what's in the kit, because what is it that you're using to test? Because there's a lot that goes into that.
So we use a Taylor Technology test kit, and that's mandated by the state that all inspectors use this high-quality test kit. We don't use computer ones because they are expensive. They take a lot of calibration, a lot of maintenance. So we use a regular kind of a test kit that anybody can purchase off the shelf, and we do it very, very carefully and very, very thoroughly. And so I'm looking at all of the water quality parameters that the state requires operators to test. And from there, I can get an assessment of what's happening in the pool at this moment, right? It's a snap inspection, right? I'm getting a glimpse twice a year of what's happening in this pool today. The other thing I assess, first thing I do when I walk into a facility, is ask the operator, how are things going today, right? Is everything normal? Is everything usual? Or is there something unusual happening? And they kind of get one chance to fess up, right? Well, if the basketball team just left the hotel and they had 40 kids in the pool, destroyed the water quality, well, that's I'm going to look for different water quality than, everything's normal. And so after that basketball team left, the chlorine probably should be higher. They're trying to clean stuff out. The pH should probably be a little lower to make that chlorine work better. So there's all of these little nuances that we teach to the pool operator. Low pH makes the chlorine stronger. The message we always tell to our operators is educate your bathers. People complain about having chemicals in the water. Nobody likes that chlorine smell. And if the bathing public would take a shower, just a rinsing shower, before they got in the pool, they would wash off 10 or 20,000 dead skin cells. They would wash off the lotions, the deodorants, all of that stuff that gets brought into the pool that the chlorine has to then attack, kill if it's alive, and then literally burn it out. So we are working at trying to educate the public that they have a big impact on the water quality.
Yeah, there's probably a lot of risk associated with public pools if they're not properly maintained. So what kind of things can happen if they're not?
Right. The whole idea that the human body is 80% water. So if it can live in us, it may live in a pool, and a big body of water that's not maintained correctly is great at transmitting diseases. Cryptosporidium is a infection of the body that is shed through your feces, and it takes chlorine at 1 part per million 10 days to kill that crypto bug. So that's 10 days in a chlorinated pool where you can be transmitting that bacteria, that disease to other people. So educating our operators and our bathers, if you have diarrhea, you shouldn't be in the pool
Probably
for
not.
2 weeks, right?
Yeah.
We want you free and clear for 2 weeks.
Don't go in the pool.
Exactly, right. And then explaining to the operators that, you have feces being pulled into your pool a little bit every day. Do we want to go down this?
I mean,
path?
It's part of the deal, right? I knew this when we were going to talk because it involves, I mean, you and I went to a hotel not to be named, and they shared a story.
Right.
Won't share the specifics of that story, but it was a little, kind of raised an eyebrow as to what was happening in that pool or what happened at that pool. And you're like, okay.
Yeah, right. We look.
It's a tough topic. I understand, John, but it's the nature of the beast, right?
It's relevant, right? I mean, surgeons don't wipe their hands with toilet paper before they work on you, right? They wash, they scrub. And so that idea of a shower rinses off a lot of contaminants that the human body brings into the pool that then have to be killed and burned out by chlorine. So pools are not drinking water. There is this assumption amongst parents that, well, my kid can't catch anything from a pool, right? Somebody get in trouble if my kid got sick. Well, that's after the fact, and you as the bather, especially with a kid in diapers, have some responsibility to the pool and to yourself and to the community to check that diaper frequently, right? Check that,
please,
and get that out. Yeah. Change that diaper, right?
Yeah. You're checking the water, the chemicals, the chlorine, all that stuff. You're also checking filters and kind of the workings of the pool, right?
Correct. So the first part is looking at the pool water, getting a baseline of what's happening with the water, and then looking at the infrastructure, right? Do they know how to use their filter? Are they maintaining their filter? Do they understand the best ways to use that filter? Are they also doing the required checking of the water quality? A spa is a small volume of water, and it can go sideways pretty quick with 8 or 10 people in there. Not much water per bather, so that can get overloaded, burn out the chlorine quick, and now we may be potentially spreading germs. So a pool is a giant volume of water. It has a lot of inertia. It doesn't change very quickly. So we talk about how often are you checking the spa, Mr. Operator or Mrs. Operator, and what are you checking for? And when you find a problem, do you have solutions? Do you have some charts that tell you how much chlorine or muriatic acid to add to that pool for this circumstance? Or is this kind of created on the fly? Or are you just dumping stuff in like last time? So again, most of this process is educational. People think that an inspector has sharp teeth and a lot of power, and we try 90% of the time to work on education. A closure or some kind of reinspection is a failure to communicate, right? We haven't gotten that word out to the operator on how to do his job. So a lot of it is education. A lot of it is providing them with resources so they can find and do their job a little easier. And I find that most of the operators are really helpful, and they're happy to have some professional advice coming at them because that maintenance person may have been hired to do, repairing lights and lamps in the hotel, and now they're also in charge of the pool. And so they are hungry for knowledge, and they want some validation and some help doing their job better. And if I can do my job efficiently, that makes them more efficient, and that protects public health.
Yeah, I would imagine a big part of this is the education.
Always education.
It's not just going and doing the inspection and saying, hey, your pool's in bad shape, we need to shut it down. You're probably going, you might want to look at this or do this.
Right, and telling them about other options they have for chlorine is not the only option, right? There are other chemicals out there. There are other processes out there. There are other ways of doing the job that will make the operator more efficient and the pool environment a little cleaner. For example, you are required to dump a spa every month. There's a lot of bather waste in there. A lot of chemicals go in there, and so we don't want that water hanging around for very long. So I teach the idea that when you dump that spa, refill it with pool water. The pool water is already balanced. It's already warm, less stress on the heater, and you're getting a little fresh water in the pool. And again, I get that eureka moment. People say, oh, that would make life so much easier. It would recover faster, and my guests would be able to use the spa faster rather than waiting for it for 4 to 6 hours to heat up. So little tips and tricks of the trade. And it's really helpful. I mean, I was a water polo player in high school, loved swimming, spent a lot of time swimming, and I went out and got myself a side education to be an instructor for the certified pool operator training class. So I'm an instructor. I've been doing that about 20 years now. And that additional education gives me the resources to be a lot better at my job, giving people a lot more ideas of how to do their job and getting some formal training to these folks. So it's really helpful to, as an inspector, to go in and dig a little deeper, figure out your specialty, figure out what you're passionate about, and, with your boss's permission, become a specialist in that, right? We are all generalists, and the job is much more interesting if you can be a generalist, right? If you're having a bad day, not going to deal well with people, then go out and look at infrastructure of a drain field or construction site for a pool. If you're in a good mood, you're ready to deal with people, then you can dive into those harder facilities that we all have, right? There's 10% of the facilities that require a lot of hand holding, and 10% that are just golden and everything is wonderful and like a bell-shaped curve where we see all sorts of things out there, right?
Yeah. Are you shutting down a lot of pools during a summer season, or is this basically just kind of advising?
I shut down probably 8 to 10% of the pools I look at. And that kind of goes with national standards. The Center for Disease Control polls, not Deschutes County data, but public health data around the country. And about 8 to 10% of pools fail on initial inspection.
And then what happens when you put the sign on the door that says, hey, we're shutting the pool down? Now what happens?
So now that pool is shut down, I lock it up. You are closed by order of the health division. They have to come up with remediation for that problem. Now, if the chlorine's at 0 or really high, that can be adjusted in a day. But bigger problems, problems with infrastructure, problems with knowledge, that may require people to go to class. One of the things I tell my operators is you should have a close sign. I understand the boss wants the pool open all the time because that's what the clients want, that's what the guests want. But I want you as the operator to close the pool on your terms and get it fixed. Don't wait for me to come along and find the problem. You close the vessel, and if I pull up and the vessel's closed, I can't inspect it. So I know that you're doing the right thing. You're taking care of that problem. Sometimes pools are so bad that they're closed until they have to resurface them or replace a piece of equipment in the pump room. And sometimes it's so bad that the operator, I make them go to school to understand, to get a deeper knowledge. We're not communicating. They're not learning from me. And I have been here repeatedly, and there are serious problems. So the pool is closed until you get somebody who is knowledgeable about how to run a pool. And there are classes around. There's not a lot of them, but they are available. And I don't recommend the ones online. I teach these classes, and sometimes people will take the instruction online and then come to me for the test because I have to proctor the test. And only about half of those people pass the test. So coming to a class with other operators is very educational, informative, because you not only learn from me, the instructor, but we're talking amongst ourselves in class, learning tips from each other, learning what products are available, what services are good in the area. So attending an in-person class is very beneficial.
And you're inspecting pools, each pool twice a year?
So pools that are open just for the summer season get one inspection.
Okay.
But year-round pools get 2 inspections, and they're always unannounced.
I'm here with John Mason, environmental health specialist at Deschutes County. Let's talk about hotels a little bit, because there's some work you're doing there too. Basically, almost like a cleanliness inspection, right? I mean, to kind of put it in a broad perspective, but you're also looking for those little tiny critters too that we like to call bed bugs.
Right. So when I do a hotel inspection, it's mostly looking for cleanliness. I mean, I remember I was at one place and the third floor had a lot of problems. And it turned out that they had a really bad vacuum on the third floor. So I said, management, you got to get a better vacuum for each floor. Cleanliness is going to make the customer comfortable. And I'm not too worried about dust and dirt, but if there's food particles and things that are going to attract critters, that's a problem. We're also looking at how they're handling laundry. Is the dirty laundry kept separate from the clean laundry? We're not using the same bins or baskets for carrying that around. And then the last is, are the management of these facilities providing training on how to find a bed bug, how to look for bed bugs where they reside? They're probably going to be within 3 to 5 feet of the bed because that's where bed bugs find their meals. They're not going to be in the bathroom. And so we want people to understand that bed bugs are visible. They're not invisible. They look like an apple seed.
Well,
they're about the size of an apple seed.
I was going to ask that question. How do you inspect for a bed bug?
So I have a very bright flashlight and I look around the bed. I take the bed not quite apart, but I'm looking between the mattress and the box springs. I'm looking behind the headboard. I'm looking at the places where these little guys will hide very close to the bed, sometimes on the bedside table, sometimes under the lamp. Turn the lamp over and there's a family of bed bugs, or under the alarm clock. And so when you pull into your facility, or into your hotel room, you can do a quick inspection, and if there are bed bugs, you will see them. I try to find them when they're just 1 or 2 before they've started reproducing, because they're very hard to kill. Bed bugs are very well adapted, and there's nothing over the counter that you can buy that will kill a bed bug. You have to call in a professional that has professional strength chemicals to kill a bed bug.
Are they common in Central Oregon?
It's an interesting thing. Bed bugs are not a cleaning problem like cockroaches or mice. Bed bugs tend to be in higher end facilities because we have international travelers. Bed bugs are simply hitchhikers. They get picked up in your laundry, in your luggage. At one hotel, you fly to the next place, you unload your stuff, and the bed bugs crawl out in that new location. So I have to make sure that I tell my operators it's not a cleaning thing, it's a hitchhiker thing, and you have to look every time you change the room to look to see if something's been deposited.
So when you find them, if you find them, I imagine you do from time to time.
Not very often, but yeah, once about 2-3 times a year that we'll come across a little infestation.
Just, again, sign on the door,
right?
Solve the problem.
Solve the problem, right? I hand that off to the operator and say, you got to close this room and each room around it, depending on if I'm finding babies, right? If I'm finding just a couple of adults, not a problem. But if they've been there long enough that they're reproducing, now those things are going to be moving out, looking for new habitat to infest. And so that could be the room on each side, the room above and below. And I require the operator to hire a pest control company to do a thorough assessment. And sometimes they use chemicals to treat the room, kill the bed bugs, and sometimes they'll use heat. They'll pull everything off the walls and just superheat the room. I don't remember the temperature off the top of my head, but they'll heat the room to kill the bed bugs. If you suspect you've had bed bugs in your room and you're worried about them in your clothes or in your luggage, when you get home, leave everything in the garage. Change, take off all your clothes, go inside, take a shower. And now the best way to kill bed bugs when you find them in your
own belongings.
In your own belongings is to wash them. The washing won't kill them. It's the hot dryer that kills the bed bugs. So wash your clothes as you normally do, and then dry them in as hot a temperature as that fabric will stand. And that's how we advise people to get rid of bed bugs, right?
I always wish, John, that there was a place where you can see kind of cleanliness scores, almost like restaurants, right? Like there's nothing like that exists for like hotels when it comes to cleanliness or pools or things like that.
Right. All of our reports are published. Deschutes County does a very good job of publishing all of the inspection reports, and they put them online. And
so you can see them.
It's my understanding that Thursday and Friday, the public health inspection website is the most popular website in the county's cadre of inspection of web services. So yes, you can read all of our reports. Only restaurants are scored. Hotels and pools, you just have to read through it. And remember that one bad report does not make a bad facility, right? We all have an off day. But if you go through the last couple of inspections and they're having the same problems and they're not doing a good job, then vote with your dollars, right? You are a consumer and you are going to support the people that you want to survive, right? It's survival of the fittest, and you're voting with your dollars. So if you have a bad encounter with a licensed facility, there are lots of social medias to get
Yelp.
your word out.
Yeah, there's Yelp.
But look at the long-term score. Again,
Right.
Everybody has a bad day, so don't judge somebody on one bad inspection. Look at their track record.
Well, it's like this podcast. Please don't judge it on one podcast. You listen to all of them, please. Have you ever walked into a situation that's just immediately made you want to turn around?
Yes, inevitably. Walk into an indoor pool and spa, and I'm immediately blown away by the smell of chlorine in the pool air, and that's actually an indication of not too much chlorine, it's too little chlorine. So think of chlorine as a fire, right? You're trying to burn those impurities out. And if you have a little fire and you put some green wood on it, it smokes. And that's what happens in a pool. You don't have enough chlorine in the water. The bather load, all those impurities overload it. And so you're getting incomplete oxidation. That room is full of smoke. And so, again, educating the operators that higher levels of chlorine in your water are going to have less repercussions with your guests. They're going to feel cleaner. Everybody wants less chlorine in the water, but more chlorine obviously protects public health, but it keeps the air and the water cleaner, better all the way around. So again, it's education. I remember on a family trip, I didn't realize that my kids were paying attention to this. They were 8 or 10 or something like that, and we pulled into the room, and my kids are standing there holding their luggage. I'm like, well, what are you guys doing? What's up? Well, Dad, you got to do your bed bug check. And so
I was actually going to ask you that.
And then the cousins were over and they heard about that, and now my brothers and siblings were asking.
They're taking you on vacation all the time.
Well, yeah, will you come check our room too?
I was going to ask when you're on vacation, do you find yourself doing inspector things at every place you go to?
Well, for pools, obviously, there's some easy things to check.
The smell
if the skimmers are clean, if the smell is good. Hotels, yes, I do a quick bed bug check. And restaurants, I prefer not to see what's going on in the kitchen. So if there's a display kitchen, I've got my back to the display kitchen because while I'm not paranoid, it's hard to take the white hat off sometimes and just enjoy the meal after I've seen the cook licking his fingers or something or running his hands through his hair as he's, flipping burgers, whatever.
Do you pack a flashlight with you when you go on vacation?
I don't take my test kit either.
Okay.
So, I swim in a lake or a river. I prefer to go rafting. So
there you go.
The problem's moving downriver. It's somebody else's problem.
You mentioned the smell. When somebody goes into a pool and they're blown away by that smell of chlorine, are there other signs that people should kind of be on the lookout for when they're going to a pool or a hotel, besides the obvious if they see something? But what do you recommend when people are traveling or using a pool or a spa?
A couple of things. I always look at the skimmer. The skimmer is the thing that's pulling water off the surface of the pool, and it's usually got a white lid on the deck. And you can pull that up and look inside that skimmer. And if there's a lot of debris in there, it hasn't been cleaned. If the sides are slimy, that's an indication that the operator is not doing a good job. That smell is obviously it. And one of the easiest things to look for is there a shower on deck and has it been used? Right? Just general cleanliness like that is kind of an indication of, does the operator concerned? Is he or she passionate about doing a good job and protecting public health and the health of his customers? Or are they just, doing the minimum and not really understanding what they're doing? So that's the best advice I can give for how to assess a pool when you first walk in there.
Good advice. Good information.
Right.
Thank you for doing this work, because for everybody else out there who's traveling or going to pools, or thank you for doing this work, for teaching the business owners and the pool owners and those kinds of things to get it right, to do it right, to take it seriously.
Exactly. To take it seriously. I mean, it's very rare that a health inspector gets a pat on the back or anybody says thank you. Most of us are just kind of, dealing with the operator, and that's usually their worst day, right? The health inspector, they get home and they tell their family, their kids, whatever, the health inspector was there today. Well, that's my everyday, 3 or 4 times a day. So it's trying very hard to be educational, because I will educate a person at this facility and they leave and I'm disappointed, but hopefully they pop up at another facility and they've retained that education and they're going to be a rock star at their new facility also.
Well, let me speak for everybody in Deschutes County. Thank you for the work that you do.
You're welcome. Thank you.
John Mason, environmental health specialist with Deschutes County.
Hopefully it was educational and entertaining. Good to talk to you, Eric.
Environmental health programs and services benefit the entire community, including tourists, visitors, and businesses. Anyone who eats food prepared in a restaurant, temporary food booth, or swims in a pool benefits from the inspection process. If you'd like more information about environmental health, you can go to deschutes.org/environmental health. Lots of good information about the topics we discussed today and so much more. Be sure to catch Inside Deschutes County wherever you listen to your podcasts. You can also find us at deschutes.org/podcast. But until next time, please be safe out there.